Hello and welcome back to the game room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love talking about? Games. And it seems like a lot of people these days who cover games seem to hate them. Or at least the people who play them. Well, that's not me, and that's not the 4,838 of you beautiful people checking out this video here today. Thank you guys so much for watching the PS4 video. Thank you guys for watching all the videos. This is really kind of crazy. I started doing these kind of videos with the Xbox 360 during the FOMO. We moved over to the Switch, PS5, PS4, and yes, some are more popular than others, but you guys keep coming back. So thank you so much. This week we are going back to the Switch, which seems to be everyone's favorite. And with the Switch 2 coming out, I think by the next time the next video comes out, it's coming out soon. Let's take a look at 10 more games you should pick up for the Switch right now. Which, hey, you can play on the Switch too if you're going to overpay for it like I am. Anyways, let's check it out.
There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
Alright, the first game we're going to talk about this week is a game that was heavily rumored on the Switch for a long time. In fact, it got one of my pet peeves. Every other week it seemed like we were seeing a video about, oh, this trilogy is coming out, oh, the Switch Pro is coming out, and then they just surprise stealth launched this game, and it either came out the same day on a Nintendo Direct or it came out shortly after. And then there was also a physical version, and it's a complete remaster that's only $40. So if you can still find it, pick it up. And that game is Metroid Prime Remastered. Now, forever we were seeing, oh my god, the Metroid Prime trilogy is coming to the Switch. Come on, of course they're going to sell us one at a time. So, Metroid Prime Remastered, it is a complete remake of the GameCube game, which the first foray I took into Metroid was Metroid Prime on the GameCube. I was actually waiting to get a Metroid in the the N64 era, because I saw all the time how everyone loved Super Metroid, but nothing came out. They came out with Metroid Prime. I liked it so much. I went and picked up the original Metroid on the NES. I didn't like the original Metroid, and then that's kind of why I never picked up Super Metroid until much later, though that's a great game too. But in this game, it is a first-person game, but it is still highly based in the Metroid formula of going around, finding new abilities, backtracking to then get access to new locales. It's a fun game. It was one of the ones where I did not pick up the sequels because I enjoyed playing this, but I didn't enjoy playing it so much that I wanted to go out and do it. It was before the double joystick era of gaming. So in this one, you would move and then you would plant your feet and aim around. There's also a lot of scanning you do in it, and the scanning got a little boring in my opinion. But the mechanics, the art style, going into the Metroid ball, that whole thing was a lot of fun. I liked it a lot. It is still a great game. In fact, Metroid Prime 4, which was announced, in 2017, and then canceled, and then brought back when it been remade. One of Nintendo's biggest... They're never going to be talking to us about games that are coming out in the future after what Metroid Prime 4 did. But looking forward to that. If you want to check out the original game, highly recommend picking that up, as well as it was not as timed or as limited as the Mario 3D All-Stars, but it is probably going to be one of those ones that is going to be sought after because it's the best way of playing it. Unless you have, I have the GameCube version too, but I like having that one. But that's the first one we're going to take a look at. Now, the second game was a game that I had highly anticipated. It was a Steam-only release in 2019 and looked really interesting. And then it just had a Switch version that was in the works, but it wasn't coming out. And lo and behold, it dropped one day. I picked it up. I was super excited for it, and that was Wildermyth. Now, this also is on the PS5, and unfortunately, it is not very well optimized on the Switch. When I played this, I had glitches galore. There'd be times in the map where the character models would just disappear, the game would crash, or something else would happen that just wasn't great. I had this crash on me many times, and it kind of borrows from some of those Into the Breach or the Slay to Spire, that type of thing, where you select 3 heroes and then you go on a small kind of 5-year, 4-year expedition with these team members. As you're doing it, they will eventually evolve. You'll be given choices where, hey, you can get a Shadow Cat, or you can get flame abilities, or you'll lose an arm or a leg. And if you die during an encounter, there is permadeath. So you have options where you can try and save the character if they die, and then that's when they'll usually lose limbs, or they can do a sacrifice and do big damage, or give health or other benefits to the remaining members you have. And then, you can have a moment of glory where they go out swinging. And each time you beat one of these scenarios, you can then promote these legacy characters, which then you can use in another scenario and eventually get to beating the game. Now, this was different than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a actual storyline game, but no, this is a bunch of small scenarios that all intertwine, and then each one's like a campaign. So you have the campaign against the fish people, the campaign against the robot people, and they're all interesting, though this game, I think, aged a little poorly. It is very 2019 writing style, very lol so random, millennial Marvel writing, where nothing is serious, there's nothing earnest. And I know that back then, I was guilty of it too, where I kind of enjoyed the lack of seriousness, but now after having it and everything for so much, and everyone's so kooky cool, and it's all random, you kind of just want to get to the point where, okay, can we have something serious? If there's a big guy with a big sword there, and they're coming in looking intimidating, can we have someone who's like, all right, let's get ready for the fight, instead of, wow, that sword could sure shave my chin, some random quip. I mean, that's partially why I think also Clair Obscura was so refreshing, is that the game was incredibly earnest. And this one is not. It's super random, super just, anyways. But overall, very fun mechanics. It's a turn-based strategy game where as you progress, your characters level up, and then you can pick their different upgrade paths. And there's 3 basic classes. There's an archer class, a melee class, and then there's also a magic class. And then you can unlock special abilities, like the fire person can have a giant flame wave and other things. And the battles are hard. Like, you'll get overwhelmed very quickly. So if you like turn-based tactical games, this one is very tough. There's a lot of synergy you can work on and get. There's kind of cover you can have. The magic users can infuse rocks and then blow them up, and other way. Like, it's a fun game to see if you can survive, but it's very punishing. And then added with the performance issues I had on the Switch, I can't recommend the Switch version, but I can recommend playing this and picking it up, and it's still playable on the Switch. Just know it can get a little frustrating. Alright, this was a game I picked up on a recommendation, I think from Legally Insane Gamer. He talked about it, or somebody, maybe RNG. Anyways, and it's a game called Outer Wilds Archaeologist Edition. But it's just Outer Wilds. I believe the Archaeologist Edition comes with the DLC on disc. And I wanted to like this game, but putting it on, the art style, it's a first-person exploratory game. You kind of play with gravity physics, and then it has you going and fixing things in a vacuum. There are all these weird-looking, like, egg people, or alien people. I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting. I was not expecting this. So it was a little jarring for me. I kind of lost interest after the first hour and a half, and I just put it down because it wasn't appealing to me. I'm probably going to go back and give it another shot. I picked it up at my local game store for like $30, and this one's getting more expensive to find. I think it was an IM 8-bit release, I believe. But yeah, I've heard a lot of people love this game, say it's really good. I did not see it, but I also did not play it that far. But art styles matter. There's a reason why a game like Bravely Default doesn't appeal to me. There's only so often I can look at that chibi art style or that wonky art style. The way this one looks, it looks like the VR game art style, kind of like Job Simulator, all that. Like, I can't stand. Not that but it gets old. I want something that doesn't always look like we're an indie game, and that's kind of how that felt. But let me know, am I wrong? Is that a game I should give another shot to? Maybe it's just one of those things where the prologue's a little boring and then it really takes off. But I just wasn't feeling it, guys. I just wasn't feeling it. All right, one game that I was feeling was a game that really was surprising when it was announced. Now, we've been waiting for a sequel to this game forever, and hopefully, because of this game, we might finally get one. But this was a remake of a Super Nintendo game that was done extremely faithfully, but then added some new twists to it that were very appreciated, and that was Super Mario RPG. So for the most part, it is the original game. It's shot for shot in a lot of ways, in a good way, and it's a nice return to form. Now, they did add some modernizations and improvements, so there's the ability to build up, not combo points, but kind of a group combo where you can, if you get all of your attacks timed perfectly, you build up extra damage. There's ultimates you can drop that were not in the original, and then some extra bonus content. I can swear at the end of the game, the part where you're fighting Smithy, I don't remember it being so in-depth, but it's also been years since I've beaten Mario RPG. But as just a fun romp down memory lane, loved it. It is a great approach to the series, and it still holds up. And because they did such a good job remaking this game, it looks like they might be interested, or they might actually be making a sequel. So the people who love Geno and Mallow, maybe there's hope to get them in Smash Brothers one of these days, because I can tell you, I did not see this game ever coming back, getting remade nonetheless as faithfully as this. Now, I still prefer the Super Nintendo one because I like the old school pixel art, but this is cool. It is sort of a hybrid 2.5D polygonal pixel art type look. I think it'd be better if it was in the HD 2D look, but this was still very, very good. I liked it a lot. One to definitely grab because I know Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door came out too recently, and that's another good one. Like, they've released a lot of classics on the Switch, and this is just a great, great library, and that's one that I would definitely pick up. It's well worth it. All right, this was one that I think I kickstarted, and it's kind of forgettable, not gonna lie. I played this in 2020 or 2021. I really can't tell you much about it. It's been a while, but it harkens back to those classic SNES RPG days in a good way, in my opinion. And that game is Shadows of Adam. And I enjoyed playing this. If you like an old school RPG feel that was made modern, it's not as good as Sea of Stars, but in some ways it's a little bit more simple and a little bit more approachable and less taxing on your brain capacity as far as learning it goes. And it was just a simple RPG story. I think I beat it in 10 hours, so it's pretty bite-sized too, and is a solid game. Is one that I can highly recommend. I did do a video on it, though, back in 2021. This was right when my computer had been destroyed, so I was doing something called Shoddy Showcase, where I just filmed myself talking about the game with it running on my TV in the background. So if you want to lark, go check that out. But it's just a fun turn-based RPG, very much a traditional turn-based RPG. Different biomes, story that's pretty predictable. But all in all, if you're looking for some of that comfort food RPG nostalgia of the early 90s, but something that's not going to be such a time investment, that's a good one to pick up. All right, this is one that came out of left field. So I originally played this on Steam. It was sometimes when they make a 3D sequel of a game, it evokes the original game, but it kind of loses the spirit. In this one, it not only invoked the spirit, it really delivered even more on it. And that game would be Risk of Rain 2. So when I originally played this, it was in early access. There was no ending, nothing like that. It was very much a piecemeal approach. I think there was only 4 levels or 4 biomes at the time. But it was Risk of Rain in 3D. And they handled it so well, and in a lot of ways, the multiplayer aspect of Risk of Rain 2 is far superior than it ever was on Risk of Rain 1. I think Risk of Rain 1 is a better single-player game, and I still like it more than 2, but Risk of Rain 2 is a much better game with the bros. And me and my buddy Sean had a blast with it. I played this with my buddies Mike and Dawn. The 4 players intense. It has the same mechanics as the difficulty starting it easy and then ramping up. You go and you collect money. As you collect the money, you then go to these various different statues that you can purchase upgrades from. And as you're doing that, you will build a synergy. Now, I never quite got to the symbiosis like I did in Risk of Rain 1, but in this game, because it is a third-person, or not, but a first-person shooter, or third-person shooter, that kind of thing, you really can cheese the environment a little bit more and survive a little bit easier than you could in Risk of Rain 1. But I think Risk of Rain 2 is much more punishing and a lot easier to get yourself just destroyed. And when they did eventually add the end boss, it was fun. I was never all that great at it, and I haven't really played much of the Switch 2 version. And this one also includes the original Risk of Rain, which is another handy dandy thing to think about. So not only are you getting Risk of Rain 2, but you have Risk of Rain 1. Though there was a re-release of Risk of Rain 1 called Risk of Rain Returns, which I don't know if there's a physical version of that. I've looked for it. They don't have it. But it's all in all, phenomenal series. I love it so much. This game they kept adding content to. Just like the first one, you can unlock the additional characters. And I think I got this for like $15, $20, and it's still able to be found for around that. Pick that one up. That is such a fun game. It's one of the few multiplayer focused experiences that I really enjoy, and it kind of harkens back to those old school couch co-op games, but this is one where it really can't do that because you'd have to do it split screen, and it's a fun experience. I recommend that one. Alright, to round out the series on the Switch, I did pick this one up, even though I way overpaid for it on the Wii U, but I really have no interest in picking up my Wii U ever again. So I picked up Pikmin 3 Deluxe, partially because I hope they improved the controls. The controls in the original one I wasn't crazy about. And then another thing about this game is they removed a lot of what I loved about Pikmin 2. So gone were the cave adventures that were untimed, which apparently a lot of people hated. And then they also removed the white Pikmin and the purple Pikmin, and they replaced them with flying Pikmin, which are the pink ones, and the rock Pikmin, which were kind of like a surrogate purple Pikmin because they were tougher, but nowhere near as cool in my opinion. Like, there was just something so cool about having one Pikmin on your team who could pick up something that required 10 Pikmin by himself. But luckily Pikmin 4 fixed that. But still, solid series. I'm with Miyamoto. I love Pikmin. It's always so nice to see how much he loves it too. I know that was one of his, probably his last brain project, because I remember when it came out in 2000 or 2001, he said he was just gardening in his garden, and he has like, oh, what about the little Pikmins in there? Because that's kind of that was the whole onus behind the series. Much like Legend of Zelda reminded him of his childhood searching through the woods, Pikmin, I'm assuming the guy loves gardening or something, because he's always talking to death about Pikmin. But the third one, in my opinion, is my least favorite, but it's kind of like saying my least favorite piece of pizza. I really enjoy this series. It is so incredibly satisfying controlling a group of little minions, having them pick up things, fighting against enemies almost in tactical real-time battles, and then building up your forces. But unlike other RTS games where you have the enemy attacking your base is always safe. The timed aspect I know can get a little on people's nerves, as well as they add more and more nuance. That's where the original 2 games I think have a lot more simplicity. 1 is just the pure game, 2 adds the fun of the underground, and then 4 really throws everything together and gives you some new abilities like the dog. 3 I think is where they spread it a little bit too thin, but it's still a fun game and well worth picking up. Alright, last few here. Now, this is a game that I first saw my buddy Rewind Mike playing, and I picked it up just because it looked interesting. It's another one of those games where it's very arcadey in feel, where each run you kind of pick your own destination. Now, it got old after a while, but it was also a pretty cheap game. I think I got it for like $15, and that game is Rico. So in Rico, you are just playing as, I think, a police officer, and you're going and doing all these different busts, and when you get into the level, you have the ability to go into bullet time every time you open a door, and then that allows for these awesome John Woo slow motion, shootouts where you're going and taking out all the bad guys. But that's more or less the entirety of the game. It does get old very quickly, but it's very much designed to be a pick up and play game where you can play a few rounds, put it down. If you enjoy a bite-sized, highly stylistic and over-the-top first-person shooter that gives you some of that intense action feel of busting down the door and then taking out the bad guys, this game is for you. I got over it pretty quickly. I don't even really know what beating it, getting to the end. It's not as satisfying for me as it is in, say, something like Slay the Spire or Fights in Tight Spaces. But if you want something that's more active combat based and has a lot of replay value and a lot of different ways you can play, then this is one to check out, and it's still pretty damn cheap. Alright, this is a game that it's so funny because as much as I trashed it when it came out, it's still a very solid game. It's hard not to have a game with Mario in it that's not solid. It just, compared to the original, it changed so much that I just wondered why. Why would you do this? And that game is Mario plus Rabbids: The Sparks of Hope. So in this game, it is a sequel to the very, very good Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, and where that game was more or less a XCOM ripoff with a Mario skin on it, in a good way, because there's a lot of XCOM ripoffs out there that are terrible, and this one really made XCOM but fun. Not that XCOM isn't fun, but a lot of the stressful scenarios of, oh, it's an 89% shot and it misses. In Mario Rabbids, you would have 0%, 50%, or 100%. So you always knew you would hit it. The guns would have the ability to have different debuffs assigned to them. So the ink, the this, the that. In Sparks of Hope, they removed the need to have a dedicated movement. So now your character could run freely, and then they would take action points. So it made more sense to Zerg the enemy, not ever go behind cover and just try and waylay them so that they got taken out before you. And also the other thing with Mario Rabbids is that I guess some people didn't like the pace of it, where every time in every world you would just have 10 battles and that was it. In Sparks of Hope, there are random battles on the map. There's tons of battles. There's probably 10 times the amount of encounters you have, but they are not at all well thought out. So instead of having very thought out, procedurally generated, or very thought out set pieces, now you have these procedurally generated battles that just feel like time wasters. That and the fact that you don't really hide behind cover, and that the weapons themselves don't have debuffs. You have to apply the debuffs. It just, all in all, a far inferior game, but caveat being, it's still a lot of fun. Now, they also introduced some characters that do not have anything to do with the Mario universe. So you get introduced to this almost Final Fantasy looking character called Edge. And it's just, what are they there for? Like, why are we not having Rabbid this, Rabbid that? Like, they do introduce another Rabbid character later on based on the Mario universe, but it's a little bit of a letdown. The humor's not quite as punchy. It's not quite as unexpected as Kingdom Battle was. But all in all, still a solid game. One that you can find very cheaply. Both of them you can find very cheaply right now, so get them now because they are fun to play. But ultimately, I did not get a really satisfying encounter until the very end. So the last couple of boss fights in the game really had you making decisions, planning out, doing that XCOM-like tactics and strategy. But before that, almost every single encounter could be beaten by just ramming your head at the wall using the same tactics and not really thinking about it. And that kind of bummed me out. All right, and then the last game we're going to talk about here has had a couple of versions now, because once again, this is kind of the era we're in, where we'll get a physical version and then they'll re-release it with the DLC on disc, kind of like the Messenger just did. But this one I think I don't know. But anyways, the game is TMNT Shredder's Revenge. Now, I was not high on this game when it came out as some others were. Yes, I love Turtles in Time, but I've kind of fallen off the Turtles franchise a long time ago. And looking at it, yes, the art style was cool, this and that, but I kind of got my renaissance with the beat 'em up with Streets of Rage 4 shortly before this. So playing this was kind of more the same, but I did pick it up. I got the physical version, but I bought the digital version. Once again, I try and support games that I like, or that I like the concept of coming back, just so that the people who make them know that there's an audience for it. That's what I always tell people. Hey, if you complain that there's not a this or that coming out, then you gotta vote with your wallet. That's one of the nice things right now. Not to keep talking about Expedition 33, but the collector's edition of Expedition 33 sold out. It's going for thousands of dollars right now. No one's ever heard of it. Well, if you guys wanted to get the monolith, the statuette that has a music box and those kind of things, which I'm over getting collector's editions, but I actually am getting one of these. They're releasing a standalone monolith edition. It is overpriced. It's not getting here till January. $50 shipping to the US, but you know what? $160 for all of this stuff as opposed to $4,000 or $400 or $1,000 for the actual collector's edition. When I already have the game, it's worth it to me. And same thing with Shredder's Revenge. It's worth it for me to pick this up and support people making these kind of games. This is I think it's a 6-person simultaneous co-op game. And there was a while there where you could kind of cheese the system by playing it online with other people. It's not as much fun as Streets of Rage 4 in my opinion, but it really captures the essence of Turtles in Time. It's a long game. There's a lot of stages in it. They really did do it with a lot of care. I wish I knew the Turtles universe better, because then I'd probably understand more of what it's doing. But all in all, a phenomenal game. One that you guys should pick up if you like beat-em-ups, if you like co-op games, couch co-op games. You can do online or couch co-op, which is solid. I played some of this with my wife. She had a good time with this one. Not as much as Streets of Rage 4, but still a fun one. Another good one you can play with people who may not be quote-unquote gamers. But yeah, that's another one to pick up. And it's still fairly inexpensive, though, like I said, I think there might be a re-release coming out that has some DLC on it. But anyways, that is another 10 Switch games you guys should pick up. Thank you again. We are on the countdown to 4,900. Going to be at 5,000 subs here so quickly, I can't even believe it. Thank you guys so much. Thank you once again for the well wishes. We have good news on the job front. We actually we're not going to be unemployed anymore. We figured it out. We got something. So thank you guys to that. Hey, I think those people who gave me the job know about the YouTube channel now. So hey, how you doing? Good to see you. But yeah, as always, I release a new video every Tuesday. I'm so grateful and thankful for all of you guys here, just so we can talk about some games. And if you have any other suggestions for me, anything you want to see, by all means, leave it in the comments. As a reminder, I read them all. I release a new video every Tuesday. It's been so nice getting a hold of you. Take care.